Hi there, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Mike, and I'm excited to share another Divi tutorial with you. My goal here is to make learning Divi as straightforward as possible. So today we're going to have a look at how to make use of some animations in order to spruce up your designs and make it stand out from the other competitors. So what we're looking at hoping to achieve in this particular tutorial today is something like this. Let's just refresh here. You can see that there's a little bit of animation going on below, and if we scroll down you'll see some more animation happening. Okay, so if that's something that looks interesting to you, just hit that like button and let's jump right in. Okay, let's jump into the back end of this. So all that this is over here is where I've created it. It's in Divi 5 if it looks a little bit different to what you might be used to with Divi. And so I'm going to make this quite simple. I don't want to create a whole new page and recreate the wheel and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to add in another section over here. And we're going to build it over here. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to add in a row that's going to house the different elements that we have. So if we can actually look down, yep, you can see that we're using 3 different columns here. This image over here is in a column, the middle parts over here is in a column, and this image on the left hand side is in a column. So if we go back and we want to add in, you can see that this one would probably fit the build the best for us. Okay, because it's always important to think of what is the end design that you want, and then come back to see how you want to make the use of the columns in order to achieve that. Okay, so let's click on that. Next thing we want to do is, before we add in anything over here, we want to make sure that we just change a few settings in the row itself. So one thing we want to do is we obviously want to make this a little bit bigger. So let's go to layout. We just bring the gutter width, bring that down to 1 so we don't have the spacing between them. Then if we look at sizing, we want to push this up. So I think I made the previous one 91%, but this time I think I want to push it up to 100%. And we keep it the same size as what I said in the previous one, which is 1800. Okay, so that pushes it across quite nicely. So once that is done, we can then give it a little bit of padding. Okay, so if we jump into our content over here, what is the padding? The padding is, if we scroll down, you can see here the content starts much lower than what the content in the first column is, and obviously in the third column it's even lower than that. So we want to make sure that we put that in here. So for column 2, we want to jump into the design and we'll go spacing, and just under padding we want to make this 5%. Okay, make sure it's percent, otherwise it's just going to be 5 pixels. All right, and then for that's it as far as that one is. If we jump back, we go to column 3, we go design, and again we go to spacing, but this time we want to push it even more down. So what could work quite nicely here is about 24%. Okay, again, make sure that it's percent and not just 24 pixels. And once that is done, we can then already jump into adding in our first image. So we jump to the first column over here, and we add a new module. So the module we want to add would obviously be the image module. So click on that one, and then we can just go and add. So I'm using this image over here, and he's in over there. So the very next thing we want to do is this one. All we want to change is just give it some animation. So we want to give it a roll. Okay, so it's giving us a nice little roll over there. We want to go from the right, and we want to give this intensity about 16%. So this is how fast you want this really to happen. Okay, and then our animation starting opacity, we want to make sure is 100%. Okay, so we don't want this to be hidden at all at any given time. We want to be able to see the element or the module at all times. Okay, so once that is up, we now want to go and start adding in the text in the second column. So if we want to do so, we just come here and we say add. And so the first thing we want to add would be the divider. All right, so that is the line at the top here. So if we have the divider over there, and I just want to get the color that we have, and we come, so we've got the we clicked on the divider element, we come design, we go line, and I can just put in that color over here. So it's E0C48F if you want to follow this particular color, but I'm sure you're going to have your own designs that you want to do. Okay, for sizing, we just increase this one to 3 so that it gives it a bit more prominent. But then for width, we want to make sure that we bring the sizing down here so that it doesn't take over the image, but rather can just help to make it pop. We want to also make sure that we keep our module alignment to the left, but we want to add and give it a little bit of padding. All right, so maybe we want to give it 80 pixels from the top. So push it down even a little bit more. And then we also want to push it 80 pixels left. So push it in so that it quite stands out clear from the image and doesn't get lost in the image itself. Okay, so this one we also want to give it some animation. And we click on it over there. But this one we don't want to give a roll because we don't want to have too many things rolling here. Let's give this a fold. Okay, so the fold is going to be like turning a page of paper. And so this one we also want to go from the right. I want to make this 1200 milliseconds. Animation delay, we want to just delay this one a little bit so it doesn't start the animation at the same time. This one we had it at 0, so as soon as you scroll down, this one will start rolling. Then what's going to happen is that this one's going to wait half a second before it actually does the animation that we're setting it to do right now. Okay, animation intensity, let's push this up to 70%. And we want to leave the animation starting opacity at 0. Okay, so once that is done, we go and we can add in the next module. So if I click the plus over here, we just want to do a call to action. So we get a Boolean call to action over here. And what did we say? Nice title. Okay, nice and descriptive. All right, so nice title. For the button, I think we put there, learn more. Or something along that lines. Okay, for this, let's just take that out. Okay, and then for the link, let's just put in a hashtag. We also want to make sure our background, we want to take this out. So I just click here, and I'm just going to make it transparent there. Okay. So that's all good. Let's jump to the design. So title text, we want to make sure that this is dark. There we go. Excuse me. Text orientation, this doesn't work so brilliant. Let's give it left so that it's all aligned quite nicely. Okay, I'm going to change the header font size to, let's call this 38. Text color, just use this color that I got. Let's spacing 0.2, so it just gives a little bit bigger. And line height, we want to push that up to 1.4. All right, once that's done, let's just close him off and we jump into the body text. So the body text, we want to push this up because it's usually at 16. We want to push that up to 18. And for the color, we want to go 9B, 9B, 9B. And then click outside so that it can be applied. Okay, and then the line height, we want to have it 1.8. Okay, I wonder if we can just change this to later. Right, that looks a bit nicer. Yeah. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is the button. So let's open up the button. Okay, it's already telling me I want to use the custom styles. All right, button background. I just want this to be RGB A 255 255 255 0. Okay, that's done. Then jump into the button border. and I want the border width to be 0. Yep, that's pretty good. Close that. And let's look at the button text. The button text, I want to push this up to 15. And I want to give it a different color. Okay, they've got the nice orange. I don't want a button icon. I mean, it's nice to have, but I find that can get a bit tedious sometimes, so I'm just going to take that out. And I think that should be it. I mean, we're not too worried about the styling of the buttons and everything here. We're looking at the animations. So once all that is done, let's go and give it that animation. So we'll just try and close everything off there. Animation. So this one we want to try to keep similar to the divider that we got. So we're also going to give it a fold, and we're also going to make sure it's right. 1250. So it's all very similar to what we gave the divider above. This one's 70. And opacity we leave at 0. Okay, so it's coming along nicely. So the next thing we want to add is we want to add in the next image. You can see that also falls into the same column as this content over here. So just click it over there, and we go and add another image. And so for this image, I want to use this image. All right, upload an image. And so we want to just jump into the animations. So animation, I want to give this one also a roll. We want to go to the left. So we're going to come moving from the right to the left, and we'll leave duration is okay. Delay, we want it to happen straight away, but the intensity, let's bring that down so that it's similar to the other image to 13%. And also, just like the other image, we want to make sure it's at all times visible, so 100%. Okay, so then that is all of that done. The next thing we want to do is we want to add in a third image. That's the image on the right hand side here. But the thing is though, is that this image is going to have pretty much the same animations and everything as this image over here. So technically what we can do to speed things up is we can actually just duplicate this image, right? And what we can do then is we just jump into this image and we go to content and we select here and we just select the new image that we want to use. And once we have that image over there, all we do is we just drag him across into the column that we want it to be. Okay, and then he's all set up there. So the very next thing that we will want to do then is we want to add in the text. So we have the text at the bottom of here. Now, just like what we did with this one is to speed up that process where we clicked on it and we just duplicated it. Well, we have that available here as well. So let's just do that too. Let's duplicate this divider and drag that down below the image over here. And then let's duplicate this call to action and drag that also in here below. All right, so once that is pulled in over there, the only things that we want to change then is going to be the animations over here. Where it was going to the right, we now want this to go to the left. And then if we jump into the call to action, we'll probably change this title. I think we said a new brand or something along the line. Anyway, whatever it is, we just leave it like that. A new brand. Then we probably want to give it a little bit of padding so that it's not so close to everything else. So let's jump into the design and go spacing. And so what we want to do is we want to jump in here and just give that 80 so that it's not so close to the edge over here. We also want to make sure that we have spacing at the bottom. So let's give 80 over there. And then finally, we want to probably give it a bit of padding between this and the image on the left hand side here so that it can have good white space all around. And so let's also just give it 80 over there. Ah, wait, that's the wrong one. 80 over there. There we go. That looks pretty cool. All right. Also remember that this one needs to be same as the divider. So we need to also change our animation and change that to the left so that everything's coming through to the left. Okay, and then that should be it. If we've done everything correctly, this should be the same as what we had when we looked at it from the first place over here. All these kind of nice twirly things and the foldy things coming out. Let's make sure that it does the same thing. So let's save draft. And let's go back to the front end and let's refresh. Holding thumbs. There's that animation worked quite nice. And that animation is working the same way too. So if we go, keep scrolling, you see the same thing is happening again and again. So that's how you can quite easily just use built-in features from Divi to produce some animations in your website that makes it stand out a little bit more. You can even get some more like Apple-esque, if that's a word, kind of look and feel on your website rather than just the usual scroll down and everything's in their column and it's very easy and boring because every other website looks the same way. If that works for the industry that you're in, by all means go that way, but if you want to stand out a little bit more, Divi provides these features that you can make use of in order to give a little bit of animations to your website. I hope you find this useful, and if you do please hit that like button below because that helps to motivate me to continue to create more content. And talking about creating more content, I do hope to release more Divi tutorials in the near future. So if you want to join me on this journey, just make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss out on anything that gets released. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.